Adejola Adeyemi never thought her world could unravel overnight. One day she was the proud daughter of the late Chief Adeyemi, running his prestigious art gallery in the heart of Lagos, surrounded by canvases her father once touched with reverence. The next, betrayal and death stalked her like vultures, threatening to auction away not just the gallery but every memory of her father's life's work. The letters kept coming. Bold red stamps of final notice screamed at her from the mahogany desk. Collectors, lawyers, even so-called friends who once drank champagne in her gallery now avoided her calls. Every corner of the gallery echoed with loss. Her father's presence had always filled these walls with strength. Now all that remained was silence, the kind of silence that suffocates. And then there was him, Muyiwa Oladipo, billionaire, playboy, scandal magnate. His name was always on someone's lips, usually dripping with gossip. Tabloid photographs of him with women draped over his arm, his smile sharp as a knife. Every inch of him screamed danger. And yet, when the world closed in on Adejola, he was the one who appeared. She didn't want his help. She didn't even trust him. But desperation is a cruel master. The first time he walked into the failing gallery, it was as if the air bent around him. A tailored black suit clung to his tall frame, his dark eyes sweeping across the dusty canvases as if he owned them already. He didn't have to say a word. His presence alone filled the room like a storm. Adejola straightened behind the desk, clutching the eviction notice so tightly the edges bit into her palm. "What do you want, Muyiwa?" she asked, her voice steady though her stomach twisted, his lips curled into a smirk, one that carried equal parts arrogance and amusement. "What I always want, Adejola. An opportunity." She narrowed her eyes. "If you've come to gloat, save your breath. You don't know what this gallery means to me." He stepped closer, slow and deliberate, until the faint scent of his cologne, spiced cedar and danger, wrapped around her. "On the contrary," he said softly, "I know exactly what it means to you, which is why I'm here to save it." Her breath caught. Save it? At what cost? He leaned against the desk, his voice dropping to a whisper meant for her alone. 1 year. No love. No strings. You'll have enough money to clear every debt and rebuild this gallery from the ground up. All I need. His eyes glinted darkly. "That is a wife." The words hit her like a slap. She pushed back from the desk. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm very serious," he replied, his tone silk over steel. "My father's will is clear. If I don't marry within 30 days, I lose everything. The empire, the companies, the Oladipo legacy. And I don't intend to lose." Adejola's hands trembled at her sides. She had heard rumors about the Oladipo family, whispers of ruthless power plays and old money secrets. To marry into that? Even for a year? It felt like a pact with the devil. "And if I refuse?" she asked quietly. He pushed off the desk and took a step toward her, his shadow falling over her. "Then you lose everything, including the Adeyemi name." The silence that followed was deafening. Somewhere outside, Lagos traffic roared, but in that gallery, all Adejola could hear was her own heartbeat hammering against her ribs. By the time she signed the contract, her hands were cold, her signature shaky. The ink might as well have been blood. Their wedding was quick, private, more transaction than celebration. No lace, no flowers, no music, just 2 names bound in a legal document. 1 year, 1 marriage, 1 dangerous bargain. From the moment she stepped into Muyiwa's world, everything changed. The Oladipo estate glittered with chandeliers, gold staircases, and walls of glass overlooking the Atlantic. Parties bled into nights filled with champagne and laughter that never quite reached the eyes of the people present. Every woman wanted him. Every man envied him. And now, she was his wife, though the word felt foreign in her mouth. But nothing about Muyiwa was predictable. Sometimes he was charming, his smile disarming, his touch almost tender. Other times, he was cold, unreadable, his eyes calculating as though she were just another chess piece in a game only he understood. Every smack felt like a secret. Every whispered promise left her breathless, even when she swore she wouldn't let him get under her skin. And yet, shadows clung to him. At the second gala she attended by his side, Adejola noticed her. A woman in crimson silk, laughter sharp as glass, eyes trained on Muyiwa with a mix of familiarity and venom. When their gazes met across the ballroom, Adejola felt a chill crawl down her spine. Whoever she was, she knew something. something Muyiwa was desperate to keep buried. That night, as they rode home in silence, Adejola studied the man beside her. His jaw was tight, his fingers drumming against the leather seat. For the first time since their bargain, she saw cracks in his armor, and it terrified her. Sleep became a stranger. The more she looked at him, the less she understood. Who was Muyiwa Oladipo behind the headlines, behind the smirk? And why did she feel both safer and more endangered in his presence? When she couldn't find answers, she turned to the contract. Night after night, she pored over the pages, tracing each line of legal jargon. It was suffocating, the way the words wrapped around her like invisible chains. She hated how the paper smelled of his cologne, how every signature bound her tighter to him. Then, one stormy night when lightning clawed across the sky, she found it, her fingers stilled on the final page. Her eyes widened. There, buried in the endless paragraphs, hidden in plain sight, was a single clause. Failure to uphold the marriage will result in permanent ownership transfer of all Adeyemi assets to Muyiwa Oladipo. Her heart slammed against her chest. She read it again, desperate for the words to change. They didn't. Her father's gallery, her childhood home. Every brushstroke, every memory. All of it, waiting to be devoured. No. Her whisper cracked in the silent study. She clutched the paper, her nails digging into the margin. Tears stung her eyes, blurring the ink. The sound of the door creaking open made her freeze. She spun, the contract trembling in her hands. Muyiwa stood in the doorway, his figure caught sharp against the flicker of lightning. His expression was unreadable. His eyes dark pools that gave nothing away. For a moment, silence stretched between them, broken only by the storm outside. Then he stepped forward, each movement deliberate, predatory. You should have read the fine print, Adejola. His voice was smooth, calculated, dripping with satisfaction. Her breath hitched. She stumbled back, clutching the papers to her chest. You planned this, she whispered. From the beginning. His lips curved into a smile that wasn't quite kind, wasn't quite cruel. Everything is a negotiation. You just happened to be desperate enough to sign without asking the right questions. Rage and fear warred within her. You tricked me. You used my father's legacy against me. He closed the distance between them in 2 strides, his hand bracing against the desk beside her, caging her in. His eyes burned into hers, dark and merciless. I saved you, he said softly, dangerously. Without me, the gallery would already belong to strangers. Without me, you'd be nothing more than another fallen heiress in the society pages. You may not like the cost, but don't you dare pretend you had another choice. Her chest heaved. The storm raged outside, but it was nothing compared to the storm inside her. She hated him. She wanted to slap the smirk off his face, to tear the contract to shreds. And yet, a traitorous part of her body responded to his closeness, to the heat radiating from him, to the dangerous thrill of being consumed. His fingers brushed a strand of hair from her face, lingering just long enough to make her shiver. Don't look at me like that, Adejola, he murmured. You'll only get burned. Then he stepped back, leaving her trembling, clutching the contract that had become her prison. From that night forward, nothing was safe. Not her home, not her gallery, not her heart. She began to see the world for what it truly was, a game. And Muyiwa Oladipo was a master player, but Adejola was no pawn. And as the days turned into weeks, as secrets from his past crept closer, as whispers of betrayal echoed louder, she made a silent vow. If Muyiwa thought he could own her, body and soul, he was mistaken. Because one day, she would find a way to beat him at his own game, and when that day came, not even Ayaton's billions would save him. Adejola lay awake that night, the storm still clawing at the mansion windows. Muyiwa's words haunted her. You should have read the fine print. The arrogance in his voice, the cold certainty, it burned her like acid. But even as she replayed the moment, a thought pierced through her fear. Contracts were not weapons, they were puzzles. And puzzles had loopholes. For weeks, she studied the document in secret, her sharp eyes scanning every line. Muyiwa thought her desperate, thought her weak. But Chief Adeyemi's daughter had not grown up blind. Her father had taught her to fight with her mind before her fist, and soon, she found it, a hidden clause, tucked inside the inheritance requirement. Stated, the contract remains valid only so long as both parties act in good faith. Good faith? Muyiwa had manipulated her, trapped her, concealed critical terms. That wasn't good faith, it was deceit. The discovery gave her power, and with it, courage, but the timing was cruel. Just as she prepared to confront him, the woman in crimson reappeared, this time not just at a gala, but in the Oladipo mansion itself. Adejola overheard them in the hall. The woman's voice was smooth, laced with venom. You think you can hide it forever, Muyiwa? That little scandal in London, when you nearly lost everything. Muyiwa's reply was sharp, defensive, but Adejola caught only fragments. Enough to know his empire wasn't as solid as he claimed. Enough to know his secrets could destroy him. That night, when he entered their room, she was waiting, calm, poised, deadly in her silence. You lied to me, she said simply. He froze, his mouth slipping for just a moment. What did you hear? Enough, she said, holding up the contract. And more than enough to end this sham marriage on my terms. His jaw tightened, but instead of anger, something unexpected flickered in his eyes. Weariness. A man who had been carrying too much, hiding too much. You think you've won, Adejola, he said quietly. Do you really believe walking away from me will keep you safe? The board, the press, my family, they'll eat you alive. And that gallery you're so desperate to protect, it will be nothing more than ashes the moment I step back. Then burn it, she snapped, her voice trembling with fury. Burn everything, but you will not burn me. For the first time since their deal began, Muyiwa faltered. She saw the man behind the smirk, the boy raised in shadows of power, who learned to wield manipulation as armor. And he saw her, not a desperate heiress, but a woman who refused to be broken. Days passed in silence. Then, just as the contract battle reached its boiling point, disaster struck. The creditors moved to seize the gallery despite their marriage arrangement, citing unpaid back taxes. Adejola's worst fear was happening, but when she arrived at the gallery that morning, men in suits preparing to chain the doors, Muyiwa was already there. With one phone call, he cleared the debts. With another, he secured the gallery in Adejola's name alone. Confusion and anger warred in her. Why? She demanded. Why save it now, after everything? He looked at her, and for once, there was no smirk, just raw truth. Because I was wrong. I thought I could control you, bend you, own you. But you're not mine to own. You're mine to respect. And somewhere along the way, Adejola, his voice broke slightly, that I fell in love with you. Her breath caught. The admission shook her more than his threats ever had. Love. From him, she wanted to laugh, to scream, to deny it. But when his hand reached for hers, she felt the tremor in his touch, the sincerity in his eyes. And she knew, it wasn't just a line, it was real. Still, forgiveness was not instant. Trust, once shattered, took time to rebuild. But Muyiwa gave her time. He stepped back, allowed her control of the gallery, let her rebuild it in her own name. He even rewrote their contract, this time in plain ink, with one simple line: this marriage stands only if both of us choose it freely. And for the first time, Muyiwa did choose, not for money, not for survival, not even for the gallery. She chose because, against all odds, she had found something unexpected in Muyiwa, beneath the arrogance, beneath the games, beneath the darkness. A man who could love fiercely, if he dared. Months later, the gallery opened with a grand exhibition in Chief Adeyemi's honor. Adejola stood at the entrance, her hand in Muyiwa's, their partnership no longer bound by contracts, but by something far stronger. When the press asked about their marriage, Muyiwa's answer was simple, his eyes fixed on her. She's not just my wife, she's my equal, my partner, my only gamble worth taking. And Adejola knew then, she hadn't just saved her father's legacy, she had rewritten her own. It was, after all, a dangerous game, but for the first time, it was a game she was winning.